Hi, thank you for your time, Dean.
No worries.
So, Dean Williams, you run the Birmingham Film Festival.
Yeah.
You're also an actor and a stuntman, so quite successful in the film industry so far. I want to know, what advice do you have for young creators in the film industry and visual arts?
I think the best bit of advice really is to go out there and do things. You know, a lot of people can be hanging around waiting for that phone to go and it never rings. You know, you've got to go out there and make things happen yourself. And you can do that just by making your own projects. So that's probably the best bit of advice is go out there, try and find work, but make your own things and get your name out there.
Okay, and following up on my previous question, what advice do you have for someone in their late teens or early 20s, such as myself, who are emerging in the film industry?
I think following on from that probably is to, as I say, get yourself out there, and that's one of the things getting yourself out there is the networking, is the whole, you know, meeting people in the industry that might be at the same level as you, or maybe a tier 2 or 3 above, and just getting out there and just putting your name out, getting your business cards out, letting people know all about you, because otherwise you're never going to get that call, you're never going to get asked to do anything if they don't know that you work in the industry. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that. There's lots of networking events.
Yeah.
You know, get yourself along to festivals, film festivals, not just the Birmingham Film Festival, but get yourself out there, because you never know who you might meet. You know, you'll be having a conversation, and you just never know that, you know, a few months down the line you might get a call and say, "I remember that conversation."
Yes, indeed, I can certainly vouch for that. When I attended your film festival that you ran, I met many like-minded creatives, and it was really beneficial. So yeah, I found it really a great benefit. So what's the most difficult challenge you had to overcome in your film career so far?
I think some of the challenges, there's always time and money. You can never have enough of either, you know. So there's that kind of thing. But I think a big challenge is that a lot of productions, you kind of use their own people, and you know, so they have a solid, strong team, and it's trying to get yourself into that team, get yourself into that project, and that can be done by, you know, doing volunteering, doing expense only, you know, trying to break within that team and be part of a team that, you know, and then you'll get used again and again and again. But it's just the hardest struggle is to try and get into it, and you can do that by, you know, as I say, offering your services for free to start with, and volunteering, shadowing, you know, a bit of running, just to get yourself into the habit of how the film set works, the protocols and all that, but just getting, you know, familiar with people that run the productions.
Yeah, I totally agree. So what's the biggest sacrifice you had to make in your film career? You mentioned time and money.
time, money. So obviously, if it's your own project, it's the money. Trying to, time to have a business. You know, I run a couple of businesses as well as working in the film industry. It's always a juggle of things to keep all those plates spinning.
Yeah.
Because I've got a few plates spinning, and sometimes you've got to, you know, let one plate falter so you can work on the other one, you know. So
yeah,
I suppose that's the biggest struggle really, is just trying to fit everything in.
On top of that, you're a family man, so quite a busy man indeed.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, how and why did you start the Birmingham Film Festival?
Because it needed one really. The story is really that myself and Kevin that run the film festival.
Kevin McDonough.
Yeah. So we were working on a feature film, and we kind of talked about what we're going to do with it. You know, once you've made the film, are we going to get, you know, the streaming services involved? Are we going to get a distribution deal? Are we going to do the festival circuit? And it was a kind of a eureka moment where it was, how come there's not a Birmingham Film Festival? The second city, such a history, you know, in the industry, but why isn't there one? There's a Southend one, and there's a Coventry one, and why not Birmingham? All these are, you know, smaller cities and towns. So we kind of within about 2 weeks of that conversation, we'd been and booked a venue and just went, just go for it, and just started off very small, and it just snowballed from there really. So this year will be the 8th year.
As you're a judge in the Birmingham Film Festival, what is your criteria when evaluating films? And have you noticed any sort of trends when you watch like a really good movie that you think is going to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, trends-wise, it's funny that they do come in trends. We'll have one year where there will be something really, really heavy about maybe like topical subjects such as mental health or something. And then another year we'll have a lot. Obviously, we've had the whole pandemic, lots of films coming out. So there's a current trend, but I think looking at the criteria films. I mean, we're very, very much different than a lot of festivals because we run over 10 days. We're a large festival. We can showcase, about 200 films, and that's everything from micro shorts under 5 minutes, short films, feature films, documentaries, music videos. We have a screenplay section, animations, TV pilots, online content. So we cover a big ranging spectrum of genre, but we have very little criteria compared to some of the festivals because we've got no real kind of parameters, should I say, on length, duration. So some festivals that just run of a day or a weekend, their time is really, really short. So that they don't like any short film that's over probably like 12 minutes or something. Because they're trying to cram as much in. We have a little bit more freedom when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. I do find that a short film though, it shouldn't really be much more than 20 minutes really.
Okay. You mentioned 12 minutes earlier. Do you think that's a sweet spot when it comes to short films?
Kind of, yeah. You can get the story across. I mean, it's very difficult to do it in a micro short under 5 minutes to get the whole characters involved and the story across. So they do it in a slightly different way. There might be a bit more of they try and do a bit more of a shock value to it, or in there, depending on what the genre is. But generally, I find for a short film, you don't want it too long. I always think we've seen some short films that have been like 35, 40 minutes, and I think, why don't they just push it that little bit extra and just make it into a feature? Yeah. So I think yeah. I mean, they often say, I think with the YouTube, the online content, that a lot of the most successful videos are around about between 10 and 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So the world we live in now with TikTok, everything's and YouTube, everything's short content. People haven't got the concentration to watch 3-hour movies as much. So. Yeah. But I think for short films, that's always a good thing. But as I say, we don't really have too much restrictions when it comes to entry films. As long as you own the rights to the film, whether it's your film or somebody else, you've got the rights that we can showcase it. Mm-hmm. Entry in. It's as long as it's been completed in the last few years and it's not something you've been sitting on your hard drive for 10 years or something. So we're haven't really got that many restrictions as other festivals. Some festivals, if you've entered one festival, they don't let you enter they won't, if you've had your film into one festival, mm-hmm. Some festivals won't allow it into theirs. We're very open, we want to see it, we want to, mm-hmm. So yeah, we haven't got that many restrictions really, so
more freedom,
yeah.
That's great. I'm wondering, throughout your career, have you noticed any sort of traits within film directors that make them successful or more likeable or generally a better director?
I mean, we do, obviously with the festival, we get to see lots of directors. Yes. And we do get a lot of returning directors, so I can see how, we've had some now that, because of running for 8 years, we've had some films that have been made by someone that has made, 4 or 5 films, entering every year. So I think work ethic is an amazing thing, to have that work ethic. We've got a guy that enters into the festival every year. He actually makes about 12, 13 films a year.
Wow.
And he's in his 70s and he's a local guy. And we've over the years we've shown the odd one here and there. Mm-hmm. And he's got a passion for it. He's got a great work ethic. technically, it might not be the most, the greatest cinematography, but you've got to take off your, give him loads of credit, take your hat off to him really, because his work ethic is there, and he's
got the drive,
and he's got that many films, he's putting in that, only one just needs to get that home run, so.
Indeed.
So a work ethic's, pretty important. But obviously being as you mentioned, to be likeable, you've got to be, because if you're not very nice on set, nobody wants to work with you again.
Of course.
And you miss out on the talent, because as a director you've got to, call the shots. You've got to liaise with your cast and crew. If you don't get on, it's not a harmonious sort of setting, then that will be reflected in the projects. And we get a lot of people that come along to the festival, and they'll all come along to watch there, and and you can really tell. There's no coincidence really. You can really tell that when you get a bunch of people that they all meet up and they've had fun on set, then it's actually a really good film. So that's. I guess it's no coincidence really that if they can all be pulling in the right direction and get on really well, that the outcome is an amazing piece of work.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, moving on from film directors, I want to know a little bit more about your career in stunts. So how did you actually get involved in stunt work?
Yeah, so stunt work was my introduction into the film industry. So a slightly different way than a lot of people would get into the industry. I've always done martial arts, always been interested in martial arts, and like the funny thing really, how it's gone all full circle is I got into martial arts by watching films, watching Van Damme and Steven Seagal, and then it's gone full circle because watching those films influenced me to get into martial arts, and then I've gone on to work in film myself, and I've actually got to work with both Van Damme and Seagal in the past as well. So it's like gone full circle. So it's an amazing, really, how a lot of people do the whole study film and go through that way, whereas mine was a little bit different. I got into martial arts as I got very proficient in martial arts. I was doing a lot of competitions, and back in 2003, showing my age now, I was on the front cover of a martial art magazine, and there was a martial arts film being made down in Brighton, and I got the call because we were trying to get the cream of the crop martial artists involved in this martial arts heavy film, and so I went and worked on that. And then the whole networking thing, if you're really nice and pleasant on set, you got more likely to people to work with you again. And after a couple of weeks, I got I think it was the sound engineer or something got in touch and said, I'm working on something else, it's got a little bit of martial arts in it, would you be interested? And then the job just snowballed. And
that was it.
Yeah, and the stunt work is whereas the acting work that I've done, you go to a lot of auditions and you get a lot of knockbacks, whereas the stunt industry, they don't just line up 10 people and say, right, fall down them stairs and then we'll pick the best one for the job. It's a little bit different. It's more of you're in there, that they already know that you can do the job before you, so there's less of the audition process. And then from doing the stunt work, then I built up to doing stunt coordinating, so actually choreographing some of the action, teaching some of the actors, so I was getting a little bit more work because I was performing myself. I was always playing like the henchman getting beat up. But I was also doing the choreography, so that was either, as I say, formulating the action or working with the actors to actually teach them what to do in front of the camera as well. So and then the stunt coordinating, then as I got a bit more confidence in front of the camera, I did a bit of acting, and then as I worked out how all the cogs worked on a film set, got me into doing a bit of producing. And then, as I say, the next thing what to do was run the film festival. So
yeah, so it seems like a natural evolution, step by step.
Yeah, so I'd say natural, but yeah, organically it worked somehow.
Yeah,
so
I like the fact that it's a full circle too. So you got almost inspired by the movies that you watch, and somehow almost got yourself involved in it. By your inspiration, you manifested your vision, sort of.
Kind of, yeah.
So what specifically in martial arts did you do Is it like technique of martial arts like you were proficient in or that you specialised in, or was it just a general mixed martial arts?
I did. I've done lots of things over the years. So I started very young with karate, traditional karate, Wadaru karate, and then I got a little bit, fell out with it really a little bit, and then I didn't really get back into it properly until I was like my teens. But I tinkered about with a little bit of boxing, and then the thing that I really liked was kickboxing was my main, and that's why I still teach to this day. I still teach kickboxing, and it's the kind of thing I like about kickboxing is that it is a kind of mixed martial art anyway, because it's you know, you do the boxing punches, the kicks taken from different arts. So it's a nice mix of a martial art. You're not very, you know, having done traditional martial arts where you have to have a certain stance and a certain, you know, you have to hold your body in a certain way. Kickboxing a bit more fluidity.
Indeed,
so, but saying that, for the film stuff, I've learned a lot of other different arts as well, because not always does the director want to see a ring sport type of fight or a barroom brawl. They might want to see a grappling thing on the floor. They might want to do more of a Hong Kong fancy fight scene. So I'm not one of these martial artists that thinks I know everything. I'm always picking up and learning all the time. And
you're not confined to one specific martial art, you're more broad.
Yeah, and that's reflected in my teaching really, rather than just, you know, doing what a lot of kickboxing instructors do. I like to really play about with it and do a bit of self-defense and a bit of, you know, multiple attack, and just mix it up so it's completely different, which makes it really fun and interesting for me as a coach that's teaching all the time, but also for my students just to, you know, experience different you know, elements of different arts as well.
So I'm wondering, what's the most dangerous stunt you've had to perform in your career?
So we like stunt work. Different stunt performers have different kind of attributes in a way. So if, for example, there was a car stunt or something, I would get someone in to do that job. And I really like doing, for me, because of the martial arts, it's all about fights and falls. So yeah, I've done various, you know, stair falls and things like that, which can be a bit dangerous, and lots of different fight scenes and weaponry stuff as well. I think one of the, I always remember the one job I did, and it was quite difficult, but actually I made it look quite easy, and I just think, I wonder if I did it again, if I'd do the same, and that was a BMX stunt, and I had to, so I got asked by the stunt coordinator about doing he said, oh, you only got on a bike? And I'm like, what, a push bike or a motorbike? And it was a push bike. I thought, that's all right, I'm better on a push bike. He said, just need you to fall off it. I thought, well, I hadn't rode a bike for about 20 years, so I said yes to the job because I knew I could fall off a bike better than I could ride it. But the actual stunt itself had to be, I had to flip over the handlebars. So basically there was a van and they were going to kidnap me. So the van had the side door open and it pulls in front of me. I hit the van. I had to then flip over the handlebars. So the difficult bit about it was the van doors were only open so wide, and the top of the handlebars to the roof was only so wide. So I had to get through like a small aperture to get through. But they also wanted me to land in a certain area because the guy that I was stunt doubling for was already put in situ. So I had to finish the way that he started his shot. So it was a bit of a tricky one, and I did it the first time, and I pulled the front brake perfect to send me over, and I landed in the van. I've done it first take, and that was great. But what we want to do is we want to see the van shake. So can you just, rather than using your brake, can you hit the van and use that to flip it over? So I did it again, flipped over, and I did it fine. So it was like quite a difficult one, but I did it fairly easy. So I'm good at falling.
But obviously you're very good at getting yourself back up, so that's evident in your career. Have you had any injuries during any crazy stunts?
No, I've been luckily, touch wood, I've been quite good over the years. I think that's because, I mean, back when I was doing it when I was a bit younger, I was, you know, I was like a real ball. I was always bouncing. I'd get back up again. But then as things went on, I got a bit more looking at the health and safety side of it, to keeping it really safe, not only for my own protection, but whoever you're working with as well. So I think my mindset has been to keep it safe, and if it's too dangerous, maybe don't do it or do it a different way. So that's always kept me a bit safe and give me more longevity for my career really as well.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I imagine being a stunt coordinator too would be like beneficial in that regard. So you can evaluate a stunt and then you can apply your knowledge into how you will do that instead. So kind of moving on a little bit, you mentioned earlier that you do training for martial arts.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of the fact that you have a relationship with Ian Edwards, and he's a Birmingham legend, currently UFC champion. And I think he's fighting this weekend, or maybe even tonight, on St. Patrick's Day. So I'm wondering, what is your relationship with Ian Edwards, and how did you two become acquainted?
So I worked with Leon as I was his strike coach for a while. So I just got the call and got asked to work with him. I think mainly because wanted to work on his legs a little bit more of a kicking. Leon's background, he's a phenomenal athlete, and his program is he does boxing one night, he does jiu-jitsu another night. He's got this whole program, but his introduction to martial arts was as a mixed martial artist at MMA, and he's been a little bit of a jack of all trades. So I think he wanted to kind of specifically work on certain things. So he got me in as I was quite known for my kicking skills, to get me in to come and work his legs a little bit. So we worked on a few kicks, and I do think actually he never said this as such, but I don't know if you know Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's like he's very similar style to like how I would how I fight. So I always think, or if he got me in because he thought that he might have a fight against him because he's in the same weight division. Yes, we worked on his kicks, and as you say, he became welterweight world champion with a head kick knockout with his left leg, which is my favourite left leg as well. So it's kind of I don't take the credit for it because it's all his work, but of course, it'd be nice to think to myself that I had a little bit of an input into that. So it's cool working with him. Hopefully he does all right this weekend.
Yeah, I trust that he'll be successful. So moving on a little bit from there, I want to go back to the Birmingham Film Festival. And how do you think it's affected Birmingham as a whole?
I think it's given a little bit of a buzz in the city. I'm not just saying it's the film festival. There is a kind of a buzz, and I think a few things of the stars have aligned in a way that, when we first set up the film festival, Ready Player One was being filmed in Birmingham.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, we got the success of the Peaky Blinders, even though not so much filmed in Birmingham at the moment, but
some of it was, I think.
Yeah, bits and bobs. But so we had this, people were taking notice of the city, and then obviously we've just had the Commonwealth Games last year. There's a real buzz, and then obviously the BBC are moving over to Digbeth.
The Tea Factory.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of things happening, and so it was good timing for the Birmingham Film Festival. We got Stephen Knight, the creator of Peaky Blinders, as our patron early doors. He's been really, really supportive. And so as I say, the stars have aligned a little bit where just things come into place, and we have conversations with people, and they're like, "Oh, the Birmingham Film Festival, people that we've had conversations with them. Oh, we came to that a few years ago. It was great, So it's opened a lot more doors. In some ways, it's been a bit detrimental because I'm so busy with that, and a few people have said to me, "Oh, I was going to get you involved in our film, but we knew that it wouldn't do very well at the festival because you're part of the judging team." So it's had a detrimental effect, but it has opened a lot of doors and avenues, and I'm forever getting invited to premieres and things like that, because of our involvement and putting a platform, for young filmmakers to showcase their projects.
Mm-hmm. What do you see the upcoming growth for the future years of Birmingham Festival will be like?
Yeah, so Millennium Point, this will be our 6th year at Millennium Point, yeah. So it's a great one, wonderful venue. They're really good to us as well. You know, we take it all over. We've got the big auditorium, 350-seat auditorium.
I think it's one of the biggest auditoriums in Europe or in the UK, right?
Yeah, well, the screen itself, I think, is the second biggest in the UK. I think it's the biggest outside London. So it's a massive screen. So, you know, people that have their own films and that might have been to a previous festival before, they come along, and there's such a wow factor when they go into the auditorium. Then we take over the whole platform. There's a bar. There's lots of networking opportunities. We do events within our event as well, different theme nights.
Producers Forum was one of them that I attended.
That's right, yeah.
And Actors
UK, yeah. Yeah. So we had all that within. So we just bring in people in, and that's what we want to do to grow it. Really, I think as far as submissions go, we have about 1,000 films a year coming. We're getting good quality of films coming in from everything shot on an iPhone all the way through to, you know, 4 or 5 million quid. So things are growing. We had started last year with our conference day, which is like an industry day where we had panels and guest speakers, different events on that day. And that was a great success, so we're going to be continuing with that again. We have all our Q&As after our film screenings as well. But the main thing we want to grow really is probably the awareness to the general public. So a lot of the filmmakers in the region, they all know about us, and we get a lot of people that come from, last year we got people come over from China and America, all around Europe. But I think it's the main thing we want to grow now is the general public, because there is that, I think with the general public, they find that it's like they don't know what a film festival is. They think that, oh, am I going to go and watch 4 hours of film noir?
It's nothing like that.
No, and it's trying to cross that barrier and just say no. It's lots of films. You can watch a feature film or 5 short films in that block, and there'll be a Q&A afterwards.
And Q&A is super engaging too. I remember when I was sitting in the auditorium, again, such a beautiful place, and when there was questions, you were literally throwing a microphone at us and a big pillow. It was amazing, and it was essentially like almost like a dice, and you just throw it, and you could
with
just
the mic in it, the throw mic, No, that's great that they've got there as well. And again, having gone to lots of different festivals, that's the first time I've ever seen that they use. So I'll make sure I use that every time. Yeah, so
it was quite unique. It was the first time I saw it too.
Yeah, and it gets the crowd engaged a little bit to ask questions because they're like, I want to have a go at that. Yeah, so it's good bit of fun as well. But it's crossing that barrier to. And the other thing is, because of all our screens are totally free, often people are like, what's the catch? You know, what is the catch? How come it's free? Have I got to put my credit card details on somewhere? It's like, no, we put it on free because we want to get more people to come along, you know. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's trying to cross those barriers, which are very difficult.
Yeah, and getting more people to get involved in creative stuff is always a benefit for the city as a whole. And Birmingham's the youngest city in Europe by demographic,
right,
so it's a destination of creativity. A lot of young minds here, a lot of creativity, a lot of passion here. What do you think the city as a whole can do to foster creativity, and what do you think young people in the city should do to be more creative or get involved in more creative projects?
It's a combination of things, really. I mean, we're doing really well with that because, you know, such as, you know, the Screen Film School and places like education providers like that. You know, it's somewhere for people to learn their craft, and we have a good liaison, you know, with education providers where we offer volunteers to come along. We got people along to various shoots to come and do a bit of work on set as well. I think, you know, with the film festival, you know, it's one of the things that we did. Sort of part of our remit really is for young filmmakers to showcase their projects on a massive screen in front of, you know, likewise peers, but also people that are industry professionals. And we've got various awards to complement that, such as young filmmaker, young actor, young actress. We've got student film. First-time filmmaker. So a lot of the awards that we do on our gala evening are very much geared towards, you know, the young filmmaker. We want to inspire them, because what we don't want is, you know, all these big BBC come in and Peaky Blinders and all these Hollywood films that are being made in the city, we don't want to have people from Manchester and London, come along. We want to retain the talent within the city and get people jobs here, because otherwise they'll go off to Manchester or London where the work is, and then the productions won't come here because it's probably more efficient for them to go elsewhere where the talent is. So that's what we want to do, really, maintain the talent in the city. And if we can do that by giving those filmmakers a pat on the back by saying, well done, there's your award for doing some good stuff. But the main thing is getting in the room with as I say, industry professionals and inspiring them to carry on with their craft, keeping them in the city, and hopefully building them and giving them opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And for my final question, how can people find out more about your creative projects, yourself, and the Birmingham Film Festival as a whole?
We're on all the socials at Birmingham Film Fest,
mm-hmm.
and that's all of them, Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and all that. And then my personal stuff, I'm on all of those as well, at Dean Crazy Legs.
Yes.
So we put some interesting stuff up every now and then. We give all the details of the film festival on the Birmingham Film Festival Instagram when we have different events on throughout. So back to it November, all the details are on there. We've got our website, birminghamfilmfestival.com.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
check us out.
I'm looking forward to attending this year. Thank you for your time, Dean. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Chris.